What's up everybody, bnha here, and today we're gonna draw a hero killer Stain from My Hero Academia. Alright, so like always we start with the circle with a line through the middle. And then we can already start to sketch the shape of his mask and his mouth. We're gonna draw this shape here for his teeth and his creepy tongue sticking out of his mouth. And we're gonna add some lines for his teeth. For his eyes we're gonna draw two flat triangles. And now we can draw the rest of his Ninja Turtle mask using straight lines, and also don't forget his bandana. And at this point we can start to add some lines on the mask to indicate the folds. For his hair we're just gonna draw curly spikes going in all kinds of directions, and you are really free here, you can add more or less if you want, it doesn't really make a difference. Alright, now we can move on to his body, and the first thing we're gonna do is draw a big circle for his upper body, two circles for his shoulders, and under the big circle a rectangle for his belly area. From his shoulder we're gonna draw a rectangle, then add a circle for the elbow and then another rectangle for the forearm. Now we can draw two big circles for his knees and connect it with the hip area. And below we can draw the shape of his feet and connect them with the circles of the knees. Okay, so that's the basic sketch for his body, and now we will add the details step by step, and we will start with the scarf. After a scarf we can draw the shape of his upper body. Now we will add the details on his arms, and the first thing we're gonna do is draw his shoulder muscles, and we're gonna use the circle as an orientation for that. After the shoulder muscles we draw his lines for the biceps and the triceps, and from the middle circle we can draw the lines for his forearm. And Stain wears something like gloves around his forearm and his wrist, so we're also gonna draw that. And just a little bit below his shoulders we can draw the lines for his bandages. For his fist we're gonna lightly sketch the shape out first and then press harder to add more details. And don't forget to draw the lines for his knuckles to give it that dramatic look. And he's also holding a sword in this pose, so we're gonna draw two rectangles sticking out of each ends of his fist. And we repeat the same process for his other arm. First the shoulder muscles, then the biceps, the triceps, then his forearm, his glove around his wrists, his bandages, and then his fist. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same like the other arm, so don't worry about that. And on this wrist he's wearing a watch, so we will also draw that. And for his fist again just use simple forms first and then add the lines for his knuckles. And we're also gonna draw a big knife in his hand. Now we can draw the details on his belly area, and for that we're just gonna draw simple lines. And the next step is to draw some edgy lines for his thighs and his knees. And from his knees we can draw his guards for his knee. And all you have to do is move along the lines of the sketch that we did in the beginning. So I think it's pretty easy to just add the details step by step this way. On his knee guard we're gonna add some curved lines, and below his knee guard we're gonna add some straps. And we're also gonna add some lines on his leg to indicate the shadows. And like with his arms, we're gonna repeat the same process for the other leg. And don't forget to draw the screws on his knee guards. And here we draw some straps hanging down his leg, and we're gonna do the same thing for the other leg. And again some spiky lines on its leg for the shadows. Now we will add a few more weapons sticking out of the side of his body. And the same for the other side. And the last step to finish the sketch is to draw the ends of his scarf and his bandana flying around over his head. And don't forget the sword scabbard sticking out of his back. The next step is to ink the drawing, and I'm using a 0.1 Copic multiliner for that. And after inking we can erase the pencil lines and start coloring this drawing. And I'm using Prismacolors for this, they are colored pencils. And for the black parts, for some black parts I'm also using a black marker, but most of the time also a black colored pencil. So for the mask we're gonna use a yellow-greenish color as a base layer, and we're gonna press very lightly, just add a little bit of color, and then we're gonna use a black colored pencil to add the shadows around his eyes and the lines for the folds on his mask. And after drawing the folds we use the yellow color again, but this time we press a little bit harder and add more color. And you can also use a darker yellow-greenish color to create even more shadows. And for the end of his mask I'm using the same colors as I did for the mask, but this time I'm using a black colored pencil as a base and then going over it with a yellow-greenish color. And for the lighter parts I'm only using the yellow-greenish color and then adding a little bit more details with the black colored pencil. And I think this is a pretty good technique that I'm also using very often. For example, if you don't have the darker version of the color that you need, you can just use a black colored pencil as a base layer and then go over it again with the color that you want, and then you have the darker version of the color. And for the hair I'm using a black Copic brush marker, but you can also just use a black colored pencil. Now we can draw the end of this bandana, and for the wet parts we're gonna use a bright red color and press very lightly first, and for the rest of the bandana we're just gonna use the black color. For this part we're gonna use the black colored pencil as a base layer again and then go over it again with a darker red color. And on the edges we're just gonna use the black colored pencil to try to blend them together. And you can also use a white colored pencil like I'm doing here to add some highlights. And for the bandana and the scarf we're gonna use a bright red color as a base layer. Just press very lightly, and then we're gonna add the darker parts with a darker red color and the black color pencil. And yeah, you can always just go over the black part with the darker red color to try to blend them together. And here for his mouth we're just gonna use a normal skin tone and 2 pink colors for his tongue. And we're also gonna use the gray color to add some shadows on his teeth. And for the scarf we're gonna use a darker red color for the red parts. And for the rest we're just gonna use a black color, and I'm using a brush pen for that because it goes much faster than using a black colored pencil, but you can also use a black colored pencil, it will be the same result. And then we're just gonna use a darker red color to try to blend the edges together. And if you want to have a good blending with colored pencils, always remember to just press very lightly in the beginning, and then as you process, press harder and add more color. And we're gonna add some highlights on his hair with the white colored pencil. And for his upper body we're gonna use the same color that we used for his mask. And again we're just gonna press very lightly in the beginning and then add more color with the darker colors. And I'm using a dark green color and a black colored pencil for the dark parts on this upper body. And if you want to brighten up some parts like I'm doing here on the edges, you can just use a white colored pencil. And we repeat the same process for the other side. And for his arms we're going to use a bright skin color as a base layer and a dark brown color for the darker parts. And then we're going to use a darker skin color to go over the brighter part. And then you can also use black colored pencils to create even more shadows. And for the bandages we're just going to use 2 different kinds of colors. After coloring we're going to use a black colored pencil to go over the lines again. For the wrist bandage we're just going to use the gray color and the black color. And for his hand we're going to use the same colors that we used for his shoulder. And again we're going to use a black colored pencil to go over the line art. For the sword and the sword scabbard we're just going to use a grey and a black color, and also add some red on the sword. And now we're going to repeat the same process for the other arm. For the handle of the knife we're going to use the black and the grey color, and for the knife itself we're going to use a combination of light grey tones and blue tones, and in the end we're going to use a dark grey color to create some shadows. For the weapons on the side of his body we're just going to use a black color and a blue color for the highlights. For the upper part of his legs we're going to use a green-grey color. And then we will add a little bit of red on these parts here. For his knee guards we're just going to press very lightly with the light grey color and then use the darker colors and then again the lighter color to blend them together. And don't forget to go over the lines again with the black colored pencil, because that really makes a difference. And the rest of his legs will be all colored in black. Now for the background we're just going to use a toothbrush and some black ink. Just take some black ink, put it on your toothbrush and then use your fingers to bring the ink on the paper. And in the end we're going to add some circles to create a darker atmosphere. Alright guys, so that was my tutorial on how to draw stain. I hope that it was helpful for you and see you next time.